gentle horse, his eyes are big and brown. He's ready to carry you the whole world around. Come ride with me, let's ride away. Come take a chance, I'll show you where the mountains touch the sky. It's a horseback dance, and we can ride forever if we try. A dream in the distance, there for you to chase. Out in the sunrise with the wind on your face. Come ride with me, let's ride away. And the smell of the leather, the sunlight on your skin, they've got us aching to begin. The rumble of hoofbeats much stronger than wine. The dust in your hair, the light in your eyes. Come ride with me, we'll run the hills and watch the eagles soar. It's where you want to be, so tell me just what you're waiting for. We'll camp near the meadow and we'll love the night away, and saddle up again when the dawn is turning gray. Come ride with me, let's ride away.
Getting into this workshop, and I'll just forget about it. I don't need his approval.
And the smell of the leather, the sunlight on your skin, they've got us aching to begin. The rumble of hoofbeats much stronger than wine. The dust in your hair, the light in your eyes. Come ride with me, we'll run the hills and watch the eagles soar. It's where you need to be, so tell me just what you're waiting for. I will camp near the meadow and love the night away, and saddle up again when the dawn is turning gray. Come ride with me, let's ride away. Come ride with me, come ride with me today. Come ride with me, come ride with me, come ride with me, oh come ride with me.
Welcome everyone. It's great to see our folks gathering once again. I really value these times, especially in the face of so much smoke and stress, and I'm just so grateful for your presence. And we'll have a number of other folks joining us as we move along, I'm sure, but let's go ahead and light our candles. If you have a candle with you, let's light our candles for spreading a cloak of compassion around our wounded earth, its people, the animals, the effects of the hurricane, violence we see around us, the evacuation from the fires, the smoke. May this candle spread a cloak of compassion around all of these. And as we are calling in the ones who teach us to hear and see more than our usual senses offer us, calling in their history-long partnership for empowering us to enter new frontiers, calling in their power for returning us to our hearts, where our greatest resources lie, calling in a restoration of our relationship with the natural world, and calling in balance of the fierce energies around us. So in these challenging times, with such so much fear and anxiety triggered by all kinds of things: fires threatening homes, smoke in our communities, climate change wreaking more and more havoc, and learning ways of doing business where we're used to saying yes and having to say no more and more to people. It's often hard to return to a place of strength in our hearts, and yet it's more and more important for us to do just that, and then to join together in this herd wisdom with one another, with our human companions and our horses as companions of another kind, to find ways to sustain us for this long march. So many of our Writing Beyond clients have come to us in times of personal crisis, not unlike what we are experiencing now, trying to recover their sense of self as a woman, their intuitive connection to guiding their own well-being and navigating radically altered lives, personal relationships, addressing the questions that have slammed their lives about their purpose and their mortality. And they found a way to restoration with women in circle, introducing them to the compassionate, large heart of the horse. Just a few days ago, I received a phone call from one of our clients from California, who we haven't seen in over 3 years, and she was just saying how in these times that she was remembering her time at Writing Beyond with just tears that were renewed from her when she had been with us. She shed a lot of tears of joy during that time, and she was one who she shared that her home had actually burned down about 6 months ago before the fires hit, and how that she'd just been through a lot, and that that time with Writing Beyond had been a real touchstone for her. So we're going to be exploring again today, as we have been the last 4 months, in this whole historical context that really has catapulted our whole world into crisis, how our horse-human connection can provide us sustenance with images and sharing, exploring, and creating together. So we want to start with a practice for bringing us into this present moment through the power of the breath. We began our very first session with heart breathing that we practiced in that session that had to do with connecting to the very heart of the horse by reaching out to the horse with our out breath and gathering in the horse's presence with the in-breath. And today we're going to practice what's called box breathing. It's actually a process I've been familiar with, but not having named it that. But it's a well-known process that is used by athletes and nurses and police and firefighters and Navy SEALs and horse people. And it's sometimes called square breathing. And I kind of like box breathing because it reminds me of the box stall for a horse, kind of. So anyway, what this works, let's go back to that. Hold on. Let's go back to the box breathing for just a moment. It has to do with taking in a breath for 4 counts and holding it for 4 counts, and then breathing out for 4 counts, and then holding for 4 counts before you take in the next breath. So we're going to practice that in just a moment. What this breathing does is that it literally resets the heart rate, the breath, the mind. It relieves anxiety. It has all kinds of benefits. And so we're going to practice it. But first I'm going to ask you to hold up one hand. Actually, hold up both hands. And in one hand, imagine that you are holding in that hand, the sorrow and loss and all the suffering that we are aware of around us. And then hold up the second hand for gratitude and joy, and calling to mind the instances that your fear and preoccupation with the news might have eclipsed. The neighbor walking the new puppy, the last of the unfolding roses, like I have outside my house, the fragrance of coffee you might have enjoyed this morning. Remembering the growers of those coffee beans, the man who says perfect with sheer delight the other day when I told him that my tire warning light had said the tires were low. He was just thrilled. Just the angle of the sunlight in the evenings and in the mornings. So holding in one hand that compassion, and in the other, those instances of joy and delight. And then bring those two hands together and hold them close to your chest, your heart space. And we're going to take just a minute and practice the box breathing. 4 counts in, pause, 4 counts. 4 counts out, and pause 4 counts. Thank you. So just for a moment for us to begin to get acquainted with one another, if you would, first of all, I'd ask you, if you're not speaking, then to please keep yourself on chat to reduce the amount of background noise. But for right now, just a way of our getting better acquainted, if you would enter into the chat where you're calling to us from. Let's just do a poll real quick. Enter there into the chat where you are located on this planet Earth this day. And while we're doing that, that's great, all over the country, and maybe the world, in fact. I believe there's somebody here from England, and who knows where else. Although I know Michelle said she was going to have to join us in a few minutes. She called in. So as we continue to do that, I want to just introduce some of the folks who are going to be helping us through this time. Denise is the one who's the techie wizard, and if you can, she's back there working her wonders, which are there's pretty substantial technical challenges in the last week with Zoom. So we're gonna learn to flow through it if we need to. Then there's Jen Lieber. She's been around since the beginning of Writing Beyond. She'll be sharing with us some of her horse wisdom. Karen Vega-Hinkle is our volunteer coordinator, and she'll be speaking to us in a moment. Peggy Dean will be with us in just a moment to bring in the 7 directions. Mary Beth has crafted another wonderful poem. Carolyn Jost, our board president, will be speaking with us too. And then Andrea Wachter will be reading a couple of poems that she passed my way this week that I think you'll enjoy. So first I'd like to just ask Carolyn Jost, as our board president, to speak with us for just a moment. If you could spotlight her, there you go. Hi, Carolyn. Look at that great, look at that beautiful tree of life. Whoa.
Life here to share. I have my horsey earrings. I just want to say how much we appreciate everybody joining the herd today during these challenging times that have gone on far longer than anybody could have imagined. And we've really been the past few months strategizing as a board about how we can continue to serve you and our continuing costs. And we've determined that in the future, we will ask you to help support our programs by paying $20 for each of these monthly sessions, or we'll offer 3 sessions for $50. I'd also like to say just a personal request, if you feel so moved to share the invitations with family and friends. I think it's a real blessing when we can gather people from all over the country and all over the world, really, which we wouldn't be able to do in normal times. We couldn't all gather together. So, you know, spread the word. If you enjoy and you think that this has value, that would be great. Also, most years we have an annual appeal that occurs during the month of July. And this month we'll be doing that during October, which is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So we will be reaching out to you in October as part of our annual appeal. Be assured that we have some really engaging and enlightening opportunities and experiences coming up. So I think you'll really enjoy. And thanks for joining us today, and enjoy.
Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you so much. Carolyn's up Highway 99, up kind of above Ashland, overlooking the rest of our town. So I enjoy knowing that she has that overview of the world, so to speak. While the rest of many of us are down in the valley here.
I'm very fortunate.
Yeah, Karen, would you share a little bit about volunteering at Writing Beyond?
Yes, hi, I'm Karen, the volunteer coordinator. And I have been talking to Trish about getting the volunteers back together in person. And I think we finally gotten to a point where this is a possibility, because we found a new place for the horses to occupy, which has an outside arena attached to it, which is perfect. Actually, it's really nice with large trees and a little creek, and so that there will be shade over the afternoons. So that will be really nice, and we'll be able to gather the volunteers together at least, and so share and to get back on track. So, to be ready once this whole thing lifts up again. So yeah, we're looking forward to that. Also, it's not quite set, that the moving date is not quite set for the horses, and the gathering, of course, will depend on once they are on there and settled in. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and if you want to be part of that, and if you're in the area, in the Ashland area, just shoot me an email. It's on the website. I will then I will include you into the gathering. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. So we're looking forward to face-to-face with the horses. I get to see them almost every day, but I notice when I do bring someone out, they are totally thrilled and excited, even me, who's there more often. So I'm looking forward to that. So one of the things we start our events with is gathering the, harnessing the power of ritual by gathering the seven, calling in the seven directions. And I just want to say that that part of the power of that kind of a ritual has goes back to my experience with sundancing. The first full year that we had Writing Beyond, I participated in the Sundance in South Dakota, and the express purpose of it for us was to dedicate Writing Beyond to something larger in the world. So I don't know if you know what sundancing is like, but it's a 4-day intensive experience of fasting and dancing most of the day, and it was an amazing, sacred, and full of miracles. One of those, well, I'll say two of them. I'll say another one later. Was the fact that you see here the horses that were surrounding us. The Sundance took place in the Black Hills of South Dakota with herds, bands of wild horses surrounding, and they would come periodically throughout the day, especially when we were dancing, and they would surround our circle and just watch us. It felt like such a blessing. And one morning early, I went out before we started, just at dawn, and the horses were out there, and they came, approached me, especially the lead horse, the lead mare, stepped about 15 feet ahead of the band and just gazed at me for the longest time. It felt like such a welcoming that she would stand so present to me personally and that close to me. And then too, one of the things that we did each day was to share our pipe that we carried with someone in the surrounding support circle. There was an arbor surrounding our dancing ground that was full of friends and family. However, I did not have friends and family in that circle, and neither did my other several friends from Ashland. So the first day, the leader of the Sundance designated someone for this 10-minute period where we would share our pipe with a person in the circle, in the support circle. The second day, however, we were encouraged to just, request someone with a gesture. And as I looked at the people standing there, I saw a woman who had a herd of horses on a t-shirt, right? So that just seemed, she was, very happy to step over. And as she stepped over to me, I realized that she only had one breast, and that she clearly was a breast cancer survivor. She was a young woman in her 40s, I'd say, at the most. And I was astonished that here I was dedicating this program for just women like her, and that we did this in silence, though. And so I got permission at the end of the 10 minutes to pass her a note about how extraordinary I thought it was, and I really valued her presence there. And so it's in the spirit of calling in all of that wonder, the larger world, the coincidences and the miracles that are possible when we reach out. And so I asked Peggy Dean, will you please help us to call in that larger world by calling in the seven directions. Thank you, Peggy. Peggy, are you unmuted? Peggy?
I think I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
There you are. I can hear you. There you go. Go.
And my screen shows I'm unmuted.
Yes, you are now. I couldn't hear you before.
Okay. Spirit of the east, of the yellow horses, the season of spring and place of sunrise, we call you to bring your inspiration, creativity, and hope for a new story. Thank you for your illumination. And now, Spirit of the south, of the red horses, season of summer and place of growth and harvest, we call you to bring your energy and strength and power to go the distance. Thank you for your warmth and connection. Spirit of the west, of the black horses, season of fall and place of preparation, we call you to bring your powers of introspection and wisdom to our gathering. Thank you for your insight. Spirit of the north, of the white horses, season of winter and place of purification, we call you to bring your powers of renewal and new hope to our gathering. Thank you for your patience. Spirit above, of the mythical horses, place of spiritual influence and vast beyond, we ask that you shine your light on this gathering as we claim resources to sustain us. Thank you for your compassion and love. Spirit below, of the horses we see and touch, may our connection with them root and ground us in our learning and sharing. Thank you for purpose. And Spirit of the center, as we bring our open hearts to the center of this gathering and to our creative endeavor with new hope, refreshed joy, and nurturing one another in our community of horse-human with new hope, refreshed joy, and nurturing one another in our community of horse-human connection.
Thank you so much, Peggy, for those wonderful words. And I hope we can all just kind of experience a sense for that the great orb of being within which we are all gathered here for these next few minutes together. So from that large perspective, now we're going to come down to a few moments with Jen Lieber, and Jen is going to be talking with us about her interaction with the horses. Jen has been with Riding Beyond from day one when I was just thinking about it, and she brings an extraordinary perception of that relationship with the horse. So she's going to share something about that with us now. And so let's have Jen's video and let's get going there. Jen?
So can you guys hear me? I unmuted. Am I?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Real well.
I can't see me, so I don't know. Can anybody else see me? Am I?
Yeah.
Because I see you. Okay. I can't see me, which of course just happened. So of course that's what's going to happen to me. I hope I'll be able to see the video because that will be helpful for me to be able to talk about it.
Right,
all right.
We're ready for the
Thank
video.
you, Trish. No. I'm not actually ready for the video.
Okay.
I'll let Thank you. I'll let Denise know. But thank you, Trish. That was a really lovely way of introducing me. I have been with Riding Beyond for a really long time, and it has fed me for many, many years. And so when Trish asked me to think about how horses have been supporting me and strengthening me during this time, I had to have that kind of difficult conversation with myself that I'd been feeling, and I had been kind of dancing around, but I hadn't really been verbalizing. And what was really clear is that in these times, I wasn't really allowing the horses to strengthen and support me. Now I've had tons of connection with them. Connection is where I find my strength and support mostly. And in these long days of summer, there's plenty of opportunity for us to connect. But what I had to really admit was that my connection had fallen into an old familiar pattern, which was one that was completely, oh, there I am. Great, I see me. One that was completely overfilled with doing. And that's something that as a human being, I am also a human doing, and I fall into that a lot. Then the next question was, what do I need to do to get back to that quality of connection that would engage all those heartfelt resources that I so needed? And it was time that I put my energy back into that. My daughter Hannah reminded me of the rocking exercise that we learned years ago and have since been able to use in Riding Beyond from time to time. And in essence, and she took a video of me and our horse Pearl exploring that, which we'll show you in a minute. But in essence, it's a way of putting our hands on, we stand at the hip of the horse, and it's a way of putting our hands on the horse. And you try for a more and more subtle essence and communication with the horse. And actually you come together and you start rocking as a partnership and a team. And what's interesting is the lighter the connection, the more profound it's felt inside the body, and the more the heart gets the release and the connection that I'm always searching for. The other thing that I found that I want to try to convey today is something that I'm calling shared space, the space between. And it's basically, as you can see in the video, the hand is going to be going over the horse, but there'll be a little bit of space between. It's exploring the duality of doing and being. And as I had recognized from Trisha's inquiry that I had fallen into much more doing, I knew that I needed to go back to exploring times of just being and not doing, as a way of seeing how those two things played together in my life and allowed them to feed into one another to deepen that heartfelt connection. So it's like a dance, right? Or like music. We can't really appreciate or enjoy the music, the notes of the music, without the spaces in between. And when I had rushed past all of the spaces for the opportunity for deeper connection, I wasn't hearing the music that I can normally hear with the horses. Okay, so my daughter took some still pictures and, like I said, a video of the rocking, and hopefully those will play here in a second. The first, there's two sequences. Here's the first one with my horse Pearl. Just stumped my own screen. Hold on. What you can see there is an introduction that we are greeting one another and just sharing and holding a little space. The next sequence, you'll see an actual invitation. Let's see. There it goes. There's the invitation. Now we're really being more curious. Instead of checking each other out, we're more curious of what should happen next and inviting her. You can see that shared space between us, the space where all that magic and that connection can occur. So what she had told me, and what you can't see in this picture, my other hand is actually scratching her withers. You can see how the body language here is more rigid. And it's mostly because I am really aggressively scratching her withers and she is thanking me. Okay, and the next part is the video. And this is the real the possibility where I'm joining with her in the essence of sharing this rocking. At some point, you're going to see my hands kind of lift off. And I'm trying to get the same kind of connection with her with using less and less attachment or pressure. It's not about pressure, it's about the subtlety. And even though I don't quite get as much rocking, we do still maintain that connection. And it was a really enjoyable thing for both she and I. I can see this whole picture. I love how this captures the moment. Here it is. It's the space between the dance, it's the music, and it's the place that I love to spend time. And it's where my heart resources really start. The next sequence that we'll see, I'll just explain a little bit, is my other horse, Boogie. We've got a longer relationship, and there'll be several shots right in a row that show us starting to engage. He's looking away, and I'm inviting him in. Now he's coming toward. You can see the hand and the nose, and here is that ah. There's a little bit of a look and chew, the relaxed eye. This is another invitation. And this very last picture that I'm really excited to show you, that's it. I found it. I'm not doing and centered in just getting it done. I am centered in my heart, and he and I are sharing that space between in a way that engages what I need for support and strengthening. So it's really been fun for me to be able to share with you today some of the things that allow me to remember how much support and strength I can gain from my horses when I'm really present to that opportunity. I have one other quick little thing that came up when I have a friend that we create a lot of things together, and we really enjoy doing that. And at the end of every time we see each other, we would give each other a big hug, and that instant heartfelt resource was always right there. And now what we've started doing it is, and maybe you guys, some of you do this, we stand 6 feet apart and we cock our head, and then we put an arm around each other in this like pretend air hug. And what I've learned is that I am not paying the same attention to the possibility of connection in that doing. It's really mechanical. And so I'm curious, this thing with the space in between, it really is something that doesn't really need to happen between horses. It certainly can. They're great teachers of how we're influencing that space together. But we can do it with nature, and we can do it in a relationship kind of far apart. So I hope that we might engage in that space between in our regular lives more often. Thanks for letting me share a little bit about what I learned from the horses. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Trish.
Thank you, Jen. I hope you could feel that sort of peace that comes with being at that in-between place of breathing in. It's like that breath we're practicing, the in-between, the in and the out breath. And so I hope you'll carry some of that with us as we step forward now into exploring the power of our imagination, and that where we can begin to seize upon possibilities for our future and putting our own intentions and power behind those imagined possibilities. Rilke said, "You must give birth to your images. They are the future, waiting to be born. Fear not the strangeness you may feel. The future must enter long before it happens. Just wait for the birth, for the hour of new clarity." They seem like words written just for our time, huh? But long ago, and even longer ago from the Gospel of Thomas, the kingdom will come when you make an image to replace an old image. So to start engaging our imagination and taking a step towards giving birth to new images for creating that future, we're going to watch a herd of wild horses here. You could go ahead and start that video, Denise. You may remember this beautiful herd from one of our previous sessions. And as you're watching this herd meandering about, it's gotten a little jerky, but we'll hope it'll move into a better flow here in just a moment. But as you watch them, I'd like you to imagine that they are surrounded in meandering about a beautiful garden. Just grow up rose bushes, great willows, flowers, abundant, all around where these horses are a part of enjoying the beauty of that place. And then imagine yourself present there as a hummingbird, that you are flitting about among nectar-bearing flowers. A butterfly bush, phlox, calendula, sage, basil, geraniums, roses and poppies, and taking in sweetness, finding a balm for your soul during these trying times, and then playfully interacting with the horses, letting the buzz of your wings carry flies away from their back, the pesky flies. Tickling their ears with your wings. Enjoying their pleasure of staring into your eye as you hover at their muzzle. Perhaps even rocking together somehow, like Jen was showing us. with such subtle interaction with one another. All these companions along the way, enjoying a squirrel busily gathering acorns from the immense oak tree nearby. And as that butterfly of joy, you're dipping in and out of the breezes that blow through the morning's cool sunshine. So allow your imagination to unfold in delight in creating this abundance of beauty and well-being for the next few seconds as a practice in strengthening your imagination, such a powerful tool we have. And then we're going to move into breakout groups of 3 each. And just for 6 minutes in that breakout room of 3 each, I'd like you to share the sweetness that you've felt and discovered in this imagination, and gaining ever more sweetness in the sharing. So let us now go into our groups. Thank you, Denise. And we'll be seeing you back in 6 minutes. Just keep enjoying that. Okay, here we go. And let's carry that sense of that exploration of the power of our imagination for bringing sweetness into our lives. And as we look at the power of story and it's what it can offer us during these times, I'm reminded someone was telling me of the story of Sir Percival, that at one point in his search for the Holy Grail, he was just exhausted and felt beaten down to the point where he just finally just dropped his reins and he allowed his horse to carry him And his horse carried him to new shores and places where he could speak in compassion and then find a way to change the world. And I love that. You know, I mean, this person was not even a horse person. She just mentioned that to me as a little parable for our times. And as we spoke about last week, we are in Kali Yuga times, that we are balancing really fierce energies. There are epic tales about these kinds of things, and many of them have to do with progress and, you know, things, you know, getting better and better. But the other major story is that of its decline. And we have fallen out of the progress story into this old dark story of decline, which is called the Kali Yuga in the Vedic cycle of myths. And it's fraught with recklessness and selfishness that has led to so much strife. And it's amazing to read the Vedic scripture descriptions of these times, because as I said last time, they sound just like our news forecast. It's really amazing. And but during those times, people have two choices. They can either find fresh new resources, or they can give up. And so we're constantly faced with that choice. And spiritual practices that may have been helpful are often at an all-time low. And Krishna in the Vedic scripture says, don't worry about spiritual practice, just find something to commit to, and that sets the seed for the return of creation. It sets the seeds for renewal. That our soul's journey affects the Earth's future and the Earth's journey by planting those seeds of commitment. So another reflection is, if you've heard of David C. Corton, he has a lot of books out, but this little book of his attracted me years ago because it had to do with another form of an economy, that, because I've been curious for a long time how we could how can the world operate with the ongoing economy, which seems to be locking us into so many unpleasant things. So his premise, which is eloquently stated, is that we live by stories, and the stories that now govern our society set us on a path to certain self-destruction. And he calls it the sacred money and markets story. That in this story, money is the measure of all wealth and worth, and it's the source of all happiness. And that earth is simply a source of raw materials. Inequality and environmental destruction are unfortunate, but unavoidable, okay? So he eloquently describes what our world and our lives can be if we claim a new story. If you could go to the next slide. So this is the sacred money and market story that I just mentioned, and then on to the next one. The next slide, which is this new story, which lives really in the hearts of everyone I know, okay? And this story is that we are living beings born of a living earth, itself born of a living universe. And so it's the sacred life and living earth story. And in this story, a connection to nature and community is essential to our physical and mental health and well-being, you see. And he describes, you know, what that world would look like, you know, what would be going on a day-to-day basis and on a global scale. It's really just a beautiful envisioning of what another story might be. However, it's you know, you start thinking, well, how in the world are we going to get from here to there? And what he says is, it's really just simple. All we need to do is notice when the old story is going on around us and just say no to it. Okay, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to buy that, or I'm not going to engage in this way, because I see that it is an expression of that old story. And just in something simple, like a friend was talking the other day about only buying toilet tissue that was made out of bamboo. I love that. Saying no to the old story, and yes, taking a small gesture in pursuit of the new story. And in fact, come to think of it, that friend is here with us today. So, so that's, to me, that's the time that we're living in. We're faced with the opportunity of finding the images, as Rilke was saying, and that a new image that we can harness the possibilities behind. And so I'm going to mention Lynn Twist. She speaks of the Cherokee prophecy. Lynn Twist she and her husband created the Pachamama Alliance, which is all about bringing new awareness for social action to the world. She has the Soul of Money Institute. She's brilliant. She worked for many years for Bread for the World as a fundraiser. And here she tells a story of the Cherokee prophecy, another story of our time.
There is a maturity in the human family now that will allow us, I think, to take our rightful role in co-equal partnership with men. I'm not for female chauvinism replacing male chauvinism. I'm for co-equal partnership. And there's this awesome Native American prophecy says that in the 21st century, it will be the time when the bird of humanity realizes that it's been flying with one wing, almost overdoing it because it was carrying the bird while the other wing was limp and weak and not fully extended. This is the male wing of the bird of humanity, and this is the female wing. And the male wing of the bird of humanity has gotten incredibly muscular, almost violent, in order to keep the bird of humanity afloat. But when the other wing, the female wing, fully expresses itself, the male wing can relax and the bird of humanity can soar. It's a prophecy about the 21st century, which I call the Sophia century.
So I like to think that as we're entering into this 21st century, that as that bird of humanity has the opportunity to soar, that right alongside that bird of humanity might be flying a Pegasus, if you will. And it also reminds me of another wonderful coincidence that had to do with the conclusion of my experience with the Sundance. We had to leave the Sundance before the final celebration because of one of our group had a flight to catch, an airplane. But then as we got, it turned out that our friend got off, but our flight, which was going later, was rained out, and we had another whole day in Cedar Rapids, I think it was. And so we found our way during the rain the next day to a museum. And in that museum, they had a display about sundancing. And I only discovered it towards the very end before the museum was closing. And so I was trying to spend those last 15 minutes just looking at all the display that they had and an in-depth explanation about what we had just experienced. And I was aware of a gentleman standing next to me. And somehow I just said, I'm really interested in this because I've just been sundancing. And I was doing it, I shared with him that I was doing it to dedicate Writing Beyond. And he began telling me that he was a pipe carrier for his great-grandfather, who was killed in Custer's Last Stand, okay? And that he still has that pipe from his grandfather, or great-grandfather, I guess it is. And that he, had at one time been in the military and become just completely burned out as a war veteran. And then he had taken time for 2 years and packed into the Black Hills and elsewhere on horseback. And that partnership with his horse restored him. And in fact, he initially started that journey on a motorcycle. That's right. I remember he told me. And then after a few months, he gave away the motorcycle and got a horse. Okay, because that's what he really needed to restore himself. And you know, it was just this brief connection of 5 minutes or so, but it was just so profound because one of the things that had happened in leaving Sundance early was that was the time when we would have the opportunity to mingle with the men, women and the men, to really have a chance to talk and interact. And I had felt a sort of imbalance of that, you know, that I hadn't had that connection with the men. But then it was with that conversation with him, it was being restored. And then he reached in his pocket and he pulled out this stone. He said, I've carried this with me for many years. It was very smooth. And he said, I want to give it to you because I want to honor what you were doing, what you were about and what you have been about with the Sundancing. And so it was part of that restoring the balance. And so, you know, these kinds of stories are really tightly tied in closely with the power of creative endeavor. And so we're going to explore a little bit as we move into what it might be for us to create our own tree of life. And we want to look first at our beautiful planet. If you would start that part of the images, Denise, thank you. Just to gaze upon that beautiful blue planet, if you will, and the green that is all across that beautiful blue planet of the forests and the greens. And that we are going to be working today with the tree of life, calling us to hold strong to the new story, a new image. Again, it's that, next slide, if you would, Denise. It's that power of holding to, giving birth to images. The future is waiting to be formed. And that we must enter into it long before it happens. And the tree of life has been honored in many, many traditions throughout ancient history. It's a powerful symbol for connection to the connection that we have with everything in ancestry. Let's go to the next image, if you would, please, Denise. Family and fertility, growth and strength. I'm sorry, that's, okay. There should be some images before that, Denise. Is that the next image? Okay. And then after that? Okay. Well, let's hear this poem. Okay, there we go. That's the one I was expecting. Okay, so this is, you know, so from the tree of life dates from over 7,000 BC and 3,000 BC, the Celts, the ancient Egypt. This here is an image by Klimt, but it is a tree of life, his conception of that, Gustav Klimt. But in the Christian and Judaism and Islam, the tree of life is known as the tree of immortality, and it appears in Eden as the tree from which Adam and Eve ate, you know. And then in Buddhism, the next slide, the tree of life is known as the Bodhi tree, and it's believed to be a tree of enlightenment. Could we have that? There we go. And there's so many different beautiful renditions of that. And then we have the Celtic, which it's really prevalent even today in the Celtic world. The roots of the tree of life represent the other world, and the trunk represents the mortal world and connects the roots and the branches where the branches representing the world above or the heavens. And so then finally we have, in many mystical traditions of Kabbalah, the tree of life is actually a diagram used in various traditions, which consists of 10 nodes symbolizing different archetypes and 22 lines connecting the nodes. It's a very complex version of reality, different aspects of reality. And so as we go into imagining what our own tree of life might be like, let's hear, I asked Andrea if she would please read this poem, What Trees Dream Of. So Andrea, would you please, this just is another way to sort of stoke our imaginations about trees and our own tree of life. Andrea, would you please read this for us? You'll need to unmute.
This is a poem by Danusha Lamaris, What Trees Dream Of. This one thinks, let me be the slender bow of the violin. Another, the body of the instrument, burnished amber. One imagines life as a narrow boat crossing water, a light mist of salt on the prow. And still another planed down to planks, then hammered into shelter, voices vibrating through the rafters. We do not notice their pleasure, the slight hum of the banister beneath our palms, the satisfaction of the desk as we tap our pens impatiently upon its weathered surface. They have ferried us across rough seas to lands that smelled of cinnamon, carried arrowheads to pierce our enemies, housed our senators who pace the creaky floors debating. We have boiled their pulp, pressed it into thin white sheets of paper. And when we die, they meet us in the blackened soil and take us up, take us back, carry us up the length of their bodies into the trembling leaves.
Thank you so much, Andrea. Beautiful. So now I invite you to please take a piece of paper and a pen or pencil or markers, whatever you have brought with you today, and just take a moment to begin a drawing of a tree of life. It is your version of it. You know, some kind of a horizontal line, flowing or straight, whatever, with roots below and a trunk and branches above. And then add images and words and names of people who anchor and strengthen you. Ancestors, teachers, friends, seeds that you want to plant for your intention, perhaps, of mercy, serenity, focus, release, listening, joy, grace, beauty. And then the trunk is where you stand, perhaps with companions between the seen and unseen, earth and cosmos, the past and the not yet. For me, there'd be a horse standing there with me, one of my companions, as among others. And then draw some representation of branches where you can add images and words for your intentions, for your hopes, for future generations. So we're going to take just a few minutes here, a couple of minutes for you to get started on that. And we'll just do that in silence, and then we'll be gathering back to enrich that some more. Okay, let's go for it. So in the interest of time, let's know that we've just gotten started on that. And I'd like to offer you another experience here that will allow us to enrich that tree of life even more so. So this is something a process I just learned about called Lectio Divina. And so it's a slowing down process, really, where you take a short piece from a poem or some written piece, and you repeat it 3 times out loud, just a few lines, with the first out loud recitation that you rest and you just take it in and you notice what word or phrase you recall. In the second reading, you allow an image to emerge from that listening. What image arises in your mind? And you allow yourself to enter into the exquisite sensing of a horse, for instance. Be like a horse. Allow your ears and eyes and the kinesthetic sensing of your skin as a horse to hear those words and generate an image to awaken your imagination, the sun image. And then in the third reading, out loud, what is it asking you to do? What action to take? So if we could see that, there's the Lectio Divina, and we're going to gather into breakout groups of 3, and we're going to take. We're running a little late here, so we're just going to take 6 minutes again for you to read these lines from the School Prayer by Diane Ackerman. In the name of the daybreak and the eyelids of morning and the wayfaring moon and the night when it departs, I swear I will not dishonor my soul with hatred, but offer myself humbly as a guardian of nature, as a healer of misery, as a messenger of wonder, as an architect of peace. Denise is going to put these words and these instructions into the chat, where I hope you'll be able to see it. You might take a picture of it if you've got your phone handy. Take a picture of it so that you can see it that way. And to recite and recite it 3 times, taking turns with each one of you. Okay, let's go into our groups and explore for 6 minutes. Okay, here we have a few minutes, but we're running out of time. I want to finish right at 12:30. And by the way, we're going to have an informal meet and greet after we close. I don't think I actually mentioned that. We won't be recording it, but we'll be just having a chance for us all to chat with one another for a half an hour if you want to. Only by choice there. So, but anyway, with these, I'd like to invite you use that experience that we just had together to enrich your depiction, your drawing of your tree of life. And what I am asking, what I would like you to do is to, in the next few days, by the end of the week, to continue working on your drawing of this tree of life, creating an image that can be empowering, and to place it somewhere in your house that it can remind you of what anchors you, where you're putting images and words on the roots, the things that give you strength and courage and the qualities and the people, and then in the leaves of the branches that you're putting the things that you want to create, and to and I want you to take a picture of it and send it to me. I'll send you a reminder, because I'm going to create a forest out of these trees of life. And I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do it, but they'll all be very individual trees of life. And it may not be finished. In fact, I wouldn't expect it to be finished, but if it is to your satisfaction, whatever, just take a picture and send it to me, and then I'll have back to you the creation of our forest. And so in these next few minutes, as we're wrapping up, I want to ask Mary Beth Watt, who I was sharing with her the other day, the theme of what we were going to be exploring with the Tree of Life. And she wrote this magnificent poem that I've asked her to share with us. She did a similar wonderful creation for our last session. And so Mary Beth, would you please share with us this poem, Out on a Limb, that speaks so much to these times?
Yes, I think I'll do it off of mute too.
That would be great.
I do want to say thank you to Trish, because it was Trish's description of what she wanted to do today and to accomplish that really sparked this in my mind. Out on a limb. All around me, the sharp and sparking spikes of hate, despair, loss, floods, fires, broken promises, hurricanes, bullets, closing in, nowhere to go. I ran anyway, not watching the path, not wanting to see, tripping, falling, something hard like a root of tree. I lay between its feet, my heart still running, until I rose, taking hold of the strength of the trunk, climbing up, 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 branch to budding branch, settling into hollow crotch, clinging for life itself, ragged breath reminding of my race. Breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold, over and over, slowly, until the calm of gentle air brought the memory of a prayer that once had comforted. I spoke the ritual words until I found peace enough to dream of a kinder world. The story rose from my soul. In it, I shone with the wholeness that was mine to claim, and knew the future would grow from my thoughts and my deeds, and the oneness that connects me to thoughts and deeds of others. I left my place in the branches with a new hope rooted in me. I went out to join my joy with the future of creation.
Thank you, Mary Beth. And now let's, here we are in a gallery view of those of us who have gathered. before I speak our final words of closing, as is our tradition, I ask you please to post in the chat a word or a phrase, just kind of perusing our last hour and a half together, and posting in the chat a word or a phrase that captures what you're taking with you, what you're taking away from this gathering today. So please do that as I speak on a bit. That I hope that you will find that your own tree of life image, as you enhance it over the coming days and weeks, perhaps, that it will remind you and engage you in new hope, with fresh joy, seeding the new creation that lies before us, the new creation of ourselves, our world. And may it remind you of the container of our herd gathering here, and then the one that's gathered from all across the world, the community of the horse-human connection, and how we will continue to nurture one another. Again, please send me a photo here in the coming days so that we can recall how we are all connected in this herd that honors the power of the horse-human connection. And I want to send thanks again to our helpers, Denise and Karen and Peggy and Jen and Mary Beth and Carolyn. And may the tree of your life branch and bloom and give shade and sustenance to everyone, to all who may find their way to you. Until we gather once again in about 4 weeks, may the power of the horse be with you. And thank you for joining us today. And now we're going to conclude the recording.